Hello everyone. Today our topic of discussion is the speed control of three-phase induction motors. Three-phase induction motors are considered to be practically constant speed motors. With the change in load, the speed changes slightly. It decreases slightly with increase in load. And practically this motor gives constant speed. But if we are interested in changing its speed due to some particular requirement, then let us watch how we can vary the speed of the motor. We know the speed n is given by ns1 minus s, where n is the speed of the rotor of motor, ns is synchronous speed at which stator field is rotating, and s is the slip. Now ns is given by the expression 120 f over p. Substituting here we get 120 f over p1 minus s. So from this equation we can see that we can change the frequency to change speed, number one. Number two, we can change number of poles to change speed. Lesser the number of pole, more is the speed. More number of pole, lesser is the speed. And we can change slip to control the speed of motor. Slip can be controlled by three methods. One is by changing rotor resistance R2, and this control is possible in slip ring induction motors only, because in squirrel cage induction motor we cannot change the resistance of rotor circuit. Second option is to change supply voltage. By changing supply voltage, slip can be changed, we will see later. Third is by injecting voltage in the rotor circuit. This is also possible only in slip ring motors, and squirrel cage motors we cannot control the speed by this method. Other method is by changing frequency, we have already seen, and by changing number of poles we can change the speed. Then there is another method, cascade method of speed control. In speed control we will remember that we are changing the speed of motor by keeping load constant. Load we are not changing, but the speed is changing with load. That is not a speed control method. Speed control method is that the load should remain same and we can have different speeds of the motors. So here are shown the speed torque curves of the motor. One is at maximum torque achieved at this slip, and other at another value of slip. Two curves are shown here. So we will watch in next slide the same diagram. The first method of changing slip, that is by changing the rotor resistance. So we know the torque is given by equation 3 by omega s e2s square r2 over s divided by r2 over s square x2s square. This we have already discussed this equation. So in this equation we can see that 3 omega s and then x2s, e2s, all these are constant for a motor. The only variable is r2 over s. Only variable is r2 over s. If torque is constant, then r2 over s must be constant, because all other terms in this equation 3 omega s, x2s, e2s are all constant. So to have constant torque, r2 over s should also be a constant. To keep r2 over s constant, if we increase the resistance, the slip will also increase to have the same ratio r2 over s and to have same torque, because our load is constant. So if we increase the rotor resistance, the slip also increases and the ratio remains same, constant. But by changing this resistance, we are changing the slip, therefore the speed also changes. Let us see how. Suppose at this load our motor is running. This is the load, full load say. At this instant the speed is N2. This is the speed. N2 is the speed at this instant. N2. And if we change the rotor resistance, the point or slip corresponding to maximum torque also changes. It comes here. For more resistance, the slip is more. So the curve shifts to this blue curve. It means at the same load, now our speed is N4, which is less than N2. Speed is increasing in this direction. So N2 is more than N4, therefore speed is decreased by increasing the resistance in the circuit. Now our speed is N2 minus N4. This is the change in speed. Now at half load, if our motor is running at this much load, the speed will change from N1 to N3 by inserting resistance in the circuit following this curve. So this is how we can achieve the change in speed, but at the same time the slip increases. With the increase in resistance, the slip increases, and as a result that speed also changes. With the increase in slip, speed decreases. Slip is 0 here and 1 here at this point. Slip is varying in this direction from 0 to 1. It means if we increase the resistance, the curve moves from this position to maximum value this position, and at the same torque the speed changes from N2 to N4, which is less than N4. So by increasing the resistance in the circuit, we are decreasing the speed of the motor, but other characteristics always also changes, therefore this method is not generally used. The other disadvantages of this are poor efficiency. If we increase the rotor resistance, copper losses will be more and efficiency will be low. Other is poor speed regulation. The change in speed with change in load will be more, which is called speed regulation. The change in speed with respect to the rated speed is called speed regulation. Now see here, if we are running the motor with this rotor resistance curve, when maximum torque reaches here, R2 over S, R2 over X2S is S here. How much is the change? At full load, the torque speed is N2, as we have already seen, and at half load the speed is N1. The speed changes from N2 to N1. Very small change in speed at full load. But if we increase the resistance of rotor and the motor is following this curve, the speed changes from N4 to N3 if we reduce the load to half. So this change is N3 minus N4 is more than N1 minus N2. Therefore the speed regulation becomes poor. So this is the disadvantage of using this method as speed control. So in nutshell, we can say that if we increase the rotor resistance, the slip increases automatically to keep this R2 over S ratio constant, and hence the speed decreases. Next method is by changing the supply voltage. Again considering the same equation, T is 3 over omega Se2S square R2 over S divided by R2 over S square plus X2S square. In this equation, if we consider E2S depends upon the supply voltage. More is the supply voltage, more will be the flux produced by stator windings, more will be the EMF induced in rotor winding, which is E2S, that is the EMF induced at standstill. Means E2S is proportional to voltage. In this equation, this is the case when we change the voltage. If voltage is constant, E2S is also constant. But here we are intentionally changing the supply voltage sorry, to control speed. So in this case we are taking E2S as variable because we are varying the voltage to control speed. So R2 over S, X2S and slip. If we consider all this equation, torque, we have already discussed in effect of the supply voltage on torque, as T is proportional to SV square. E2S is proportional to V. It means the torque varies as square of the voltage. Torque varies as square of the voltage. Torque varies directly to the slip. Means if we decrease the voltage, now if the torque is constant because we are not changing load for controlling the speed, the load have to remain same. If T is constant, load is constant, if we decrease the voltage to have same torque, slip will increase, so that the product SV square is equal to T. So slip increases as V decreases. If slip increases, we know that speed decreases. So with the decrease in voltage, the speed also decreases. Let us see now this on this diagrams, speed torque characteristics. If originally we have this much voltage and our curve is having this much maximum torque, if we reduce the voltage, then the maximum torque also reduces and the curve is like this. So the speed at the same torque, here speed is N1. When we decrease the voltage, the speed is N2. The N1 minus N2 is the change in speed by decreasing voltage from V to V1, where V1 is less than V. If we further decrease the voltage, the slope of this curve will further change, the speed will come here, and so on. But this method is not generally used in large motors because the torque varies as square of the voltage. So torque becomes very poor with the decrease in voltage. So in large motors we cannot use this method because there the load on the motor is large. So this method can be used in small single phase motors. For example, in ceiling fans we are using this method. We are reducing the voltage and speed of the ceiling fan goes on decreasing. Lower the voltage, lower will be the speed. Higher the voltage, higher will be the speed. The speed changes with the change in voltage, but this method is not used for large motors. Next is the speed control by changing slip. Third method is by injecting voltage in the rotor circuit. We are injecting some voltage in the rotor circuit. So that can be injected in two ways. It is either opposite to the rotor EMF, that means the rotor resistance increases and speed decreases, because in opposite direction the current will be reduced and net opposition to the rotor current will increase. Therefore our speed will decrease. If we are having in phase with the rotor EMF, the injected voltage is in phase with the rotor EMF, it means the rotor current increases, so giving the result of less resistance, the speed will increase. In this case, the speed may go beyond synchronous speed. If we go on increasing the rotor EMF in the same direction as that of the rotor EMF, the speed will go on increasing. So this is the, if we feed the EMF in phase with the rotor EMF, the speed increases. If it is opposite to the rotor EMF, the speed decreases. Now let us see, this method is used in Schrage motor, which is shown here. Schrage motor is a special type of motor in which the primary winding is on rotor. The three-phase supply is connected through slip rings as shown here to this three-phase AC winding, which is mounted on rotor. In general motors, this winding is on stator. So armature winding or primary winding as shown here, it is mounted on the rotor and three-phase supply is connected to it through slip rings. One more winding is provided on the rotor which is insulated from this winding. This is called compensating winding. This compensating winding is connected to commutator, and that commutator is connected to the winding which is placed on stator, and this is called secondary winding through these brushes. These brushes are movable. All A, this A and third A move along with each other, and B, B and B, these three brushes can move along with each other in both directions, in this direction as well as this. That is, A and B can be moved clockwise and anti-clockwise, but 3A brushes move simultaneously and 3B move simultaneously. So through these brushes, the EMF is injected in this winding, which is in addition to the EMF induced due to induction provided by the magnetic field, rotating magnetic field produced by these three-phase windings. So in short, we can say that in Schrage motor, the stator winding or primary winding or armature winding which is placed on rotor in normal motors, here it is placed on stator, and the winding which is generally short circuited and is installed on the rotor, here it is placed on the stator. So this is stator winding, but it is secondary winding, that is, it works like the rotor winding in normal motor. Now suppose for first case these two brushes are short circuited, these are A and B are in the same line on the same commutator segment, this A and B, all three are short circuited. Then what will happen, as we supply three-phase AC to this winding, rotating magnetic field will produce, EMFs will be induced in the three stator windings which are short circuited. As a result, the rotor starts moving, torque will be produced. At the same time, the EMF will induce in this compensating winding also, which is rotating along with the primary winding. This EMF can be fed to these rotor windings which are placed on stator in this case. If we move A and B away from each other, the EMF goes on increasing. And if we move A on this side of B and B on this side of A, then the current direction will be reversed. If the current direction is same as that of EMF induced in this, then the speed of the motor will increase. And if these are in opposite direction, the EMF induced by this compensating winding fed to the stator secondary windings, if these are two are in opposite direction, which can be obtained by changing the position of these brushes, then the speed will decrease. But this method, as you see in the diagram, is having some disadvantages. One is that its cost is very high. Schrage motor is very costly, and its size is also bulky because 3 windings are used, commutator is also used, so maintenance etc. is also more. So these motors are employed, or we can say were employed in large printing press. Nowadays these are not used much more due to their complications. So next method is, in this case we have injected voltage in the rotor circuit. Here these windings are actually representing the rotor winding in ordinary motor, but in this case these are mounted on stator. EMF is injected in these windings, which is induced in compensating winding and is controlled, its direction as well as magnitude is controlled by changing the position of brush set A and brush set B. This is the speed control by changing slip. Next is speed control by changing supply frequency. So from this expression it's very clear that speed is directly proportional to frequency. More is the frequency, more will be the speed, and lesser is the frequency, lesser is the speed. But in the power system the supply frequency is generally constant 50 Hz. So normally the motor runs at constant speed and does not change the frequency. But we can obtain the variable frequency by using two methods. One is the motor may be connected to independently operating alternator whose frequency can be varied by changing the frequency of EMF induced in the alternators. The alternator EMF frequency can be changed by changing the speed of the alternator. If speed of the alternator is changed, the frequency of EMF induced by that alternator will be changed. That changed frequency is fed to the motor, so the speed of the motor will change accordingly. If we increase the frequency, speed will increase. If we decrease the frequency, the speed will decrease. Second method of speed control can be by using solid state rectifiers or silicon controlled rectifiers, thermistors, that may give variable frequency three-phase output, and that can be fed to the motor again, and by varying the frequency the speed also varies. But this is very costly affair, and first method is also costly because in addition to the motor whose speed is going to be controlled, one alternator and one prime mover for that alternator is required. It means in place of one we are using three machines. Other disadvantage of this method is, one is cost, and other is that speed can be controlled 5 to 10% of the rated speed, very small speed control range. If we have to go beyond this range, then the design of the motor will have to be changed accordingly. So this method is very expensive, so not generally used. Next method is by changing number of poles. Again, considering the same equation for speed, n is 120 f over p1 minus s. If we change number of poles, the speed will also change. Speed is inversely proportional to number of poles. How we can have the variable number of poles in a motor? Generally the motors are wounded for fixed number of poles, but if we have a motor with various speeds, then we have to change the number of poles. How can we change the number of poles? One is by suitable connections. One winding can give two speeds. Now let us see how by suitable connections one winding gives two speed. Here we have shown the 4 coils, 1, 2, 3 and 4. First and third coil are connected in series. You can see here is the path. Second and fourth coil are connected in series, but here the starting line is this one and follows this path, current follow this path and then connected back. Now see, If we have two conductors or any coil sides, what happens? If we have two conductors in having current in opposite direction, in one conductor current is entering and other current is coming out, what happens? There is a clockwise line of force, here is a anti-clockwise line of force. So in between these two, if there is a iron part, here the flux is entering, so it is south pole. Here the flux is leaving, here it will be north pole. So poles are formed between two conductors having opposite direction. If the direction of current is same in two conductors or two coil sides, what will happen? The magnetic lines will be like this. In between the two coils there is a neutral zone, no pole will be formed. So we can conclude that between the two conductors there exists a pole and having opposite direction of current, but having same direction of current there will be no pole between the conductors. So in this case, if we consider these two conductors which are side by side like this, in one current is going in this direction and in other coil side current is in opposite direction, so a pole will be formed in between these two. Let us suppose it is a south pole. Then in these two conductor or coil sides, here the current is downward, here current is going upward, so opposite pole, that is N, will be formed. In this way, in total 8 poles will be formed with this arrangement. Having these connections, in this way we can have 8 number of poles of the motor with winding like this. Now if I change the connections, these two terminals are interchanged. These two terminals are interchanged as shown in this diagram. This point is connected to other phase here and this point is connected to second line. These two are interchanged and are shown here. Now the current in the first and second conductor is again in opposite direction, so a pole, same pole, south pole here is formed. But current in the second and third coil side or conductor, these are in same direction, so in between these two is a neutral zone, means no pole is there. And then north pole, then again neutral zone, because these two conductors have same direction of current. Again south pole, opposite direction of current, same direction, neutral zone. As a result, we see here are only 1, 2, 3 and 4. How many number of poles? 4. So number of poles changes from 8 to 4 by interchanging these two connections. We can easily achieve this. So we can have 2-speed motor by using this arrangement. Then one thing we should remember, that in slip ring induction motor the rotor poles also have to be changed accordingly. Means number of rotor poles are equal to number of stator poles. In slip ring induction motor it automatically changes its poles. One method we have discussed, that by suitable connections we can have different number of poles and we can achieve 2 speeds. For more speeds required, 2 separate stator windings in the same slots are to be inserted. It means more deep stator slots will be there, more copper will be required, motor will be costly. But 2 independent windings are wound for different number of poles. Then by changing their connections we can have 2 speeds for each winding and we can obtain 4 speeds. Next, this is how we can change the speed by changing the number of poles. Now next is the speed control by cascade method. In this method more than one motors are used. 2, 3 or 4 and so on. These two motors are mechanically coupled to each other, means having the common shaft. One of the motor must be slip ring out of two, one must be slip ring. So first motor is slip ring induction motor. These are the rings of this motor, and the rotor output of first motor is fed to the stator of the second motor. Three-phase supply is connected to first motor, and the rotor EMF induced in first motor is connected to stator of the second motor. So we can obtain 4 speeds by using this arrangement. It's called cascade arrangement. One is that we can run only motor 1. These slip rings are short circuited. This motor is connected to supplies. The speed is 120 F over P1. Second is these slip rings are disconnected and this motor 2 is connected directly to supply, and the speed is 120 F over P2. Second speed we can obtain. Then the two motors are in cumulative cascade. Cumulative means they are producing torque in same direction. Then the speed will give the speed of the set will be 120 F over P1 plus P2. We can calculate from number of poles of this motor what will be the speed in cumulative cascade. Second is when the motor are in differential cascade, means these two terminals of the motor second are interchanged, its direction of rotation reverses, they are in differential cascade producing torque in different direction. Then the speed of set will be 120 F over P1 minus P2. So in this way we can achieve 4 speeds by using cascade method, but 2 motors are required at least. Now let us see from where these relations come. Let's watch the derivation for this. Synchronous speed of the motor 1, 120 F over P1. Speed of the motor with slip S1. N1 is NS1, 1 minus S1. In place of S1 we can write from here 120 F over P1 into this 1 minus S1. For EMF induced in the rotor of motor 1 fed to motor 2, F2 is S1F. Now the rotor output of first motor is fed to the stator of second motor, so the frequency of stator of second motor is F2, that is the frequency of rotor of first motor, which is equal to S1F. Therefore synchronous speed of the motor 2 NS2 is 120 F2 over P2, and F2 is replaced by S1F. So this 120 F over P2, 120 S1F over P2 into 1 minus S will be the speed of second motor. This is synchronous speed of field and this is the speed of rotor. So first motor will give 120 F over P1, 1 minus S1. Second motor will give a speed 120 S1 F over P2, S1 F over P2. The only difference is this S1 here, and in place of S1 S2 is here, where the speed of slip of the motor 2 is S2 and slip of motor 1 is S1. Now these two speeds N1 and N2, that is equation 1 and equation 2 speeds, these are equal. Why? Because they are mounted on the same shaft, they will run at same speed. So equating these two, 120 F over P1 1 minus S1, 120 F over S1 to P2 into 1 minus S2, 120 F will cancel out. Let us see what is left. So in cumulative cascade, N1 is equal to N2. Both the motors have same speed, same direction speed. Now 1 minus S1 over P1 is equal to S1 1 minus S2 over P2. This is the remaining part of this equation, this is 1 minus S1 over P1, 1 minus S2 over P2. So we have taken it here. Now simplifying it, it's 1 minus S1 over P1. Here S1, if we open this bracket, it will be S1 minus S1 S2. S1 we have written here, and S1 S2 is neglected. Why it is neglected? S1 S2, value of slip we know it is very small, for example 0.04. Another slip again 0.04, let us say, so value will be 0.0016, the product of S1 S2, that will be very small, negligibly small, so we are neglecting it here. So we are writing only here S1 over P1. Solving this equation, S1 is equal to P2 over P1 plus P2. Now in cumulative cascade, N is equal to 120F over P1, 1 minus S1. S1 is substituted from this equation here, 1 minus P2 over P1 plus P2. If we solve this equation, the result is N is equal to 120F over P1 plus P2. This is the speed of the set when the motors are in cumulative cascade. For differential cascade we can solve in the same way, but by equating N1 is equal to minus N2. Here we will put a minus sign, here we will put a minus sign, and the result will be 120F over P1 minus P2. So this way we achieve 4 speeds by using cascade method. So conclusion is that it is not that easy to control the speed of an induction motor, therefore it is rarely controlled, otherwise the motors are used where constant speed is, practically constant speed is required. Thank you.